Hey guys, this is Kanenhariyo. This is What's Going On podcast, Culbertson edition number 3B. Please take a listen. I'm at a Zoom meeting with the elected band council. It's a presentation on the Culbertson settlement tract. I believe this is their process for consultation with the people. Anyways, there's 13 of us or 14 of us in the room. I think 3 or 4 were community members. Anyways, some questions came up, and I asked the questions asked of me, and I recorded what I had to say and the responses. So I'm just offering that out there for people to hear. Have a good one. Enjoy it. Please like and share and follow, and I'll talk to you soon.
Before we close off, I noticed that Sept has taken off his headphones. I hope he can still hear me. Oh, yeah? Okay, good. There was this is an earlier comment that was made that you said no way to. This was when we mentioned that Canada was going to be holding the land in fee simple. Just to alleviate any concern that you may have, what had happened was Minister Bennett had offered that Canada would hold the land in fee simple during a period of time until it could be confirmed as reserve. But apparently that department hadn't spoken with the department responsible for confirming it as reserve, that's Indigenous Services Canada, and they are in no way going to be doing anything like that. They have confirmed with us. So only once the land is all prepared to be confirmed as reserve will the ministerial order be put in place, and then Canada, it will be instantaneous, where the fee simple title from the land acquisition trustee goes over to Canada, and then immediately it's confirmed as reserve. So Canada won't be holding the land as fee simple for any period of time, really.
So, and when that happens, Seth, then the township and Deserano would have to quit taxing it.
I understand that. So who's going to be paying taxes while that's going on?
Well, it's in Kimmett's name. He'll have to pay taxes, and I guess the trustee would have to pay the taxes until such time as it's confirmed reserve, because when it's confirmed reserve, then taxation no longer applies. But again, this is something we should be doing.
I hope this deal falls through then, because it's foolish. This thing was set up with a major hole in it, because if it gets held up in the trustee, we can wind up in a situation where this thing gets held for a very long time, and the trustee payments can eat up the value of it, or the tax gets raised on it, and we can wind up in a situation where we lose it. There's a hole here, guys.
No, the paying of taxes was included in the land acquisition costs, so that's been dealt with as the amount that's going to be set aside and held by the land acquisition trustee.
Right.
So those property taxes are going to be paid in that meantime.
They're making the assumption that it's going to happen in a couple of years.
Yes.
I've watched this land stuff go on for 20, 30 years. And you're also operating on the premise, Don, let's be straightforward about this. We're operating on the premise that's if everybody's going to get along and play nice. If somebody acts up or goes and does something and we get a big tangled mess, this thing's going to cost ridiculous amount of money. This is.
Do you know they've spent millions of dollars in policing costs, and they could have settled the claim for half of that cost that they spent in policing.
I know that. So
they'll put money in policing before they bow to this. I've seen it happen many, many places.
I'm just saying, if this thing gets tangled up in a trustee situation where the trust is holding it, instead of it going to the band, so we're holding
it. Like I think they're going to get it done. The government wants this over with. They don't want this alive and hanging on to plaguing, the ministers off.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm just a quick question. Is there some sort of a clause or a way that in the event the deal fails, but we get halfway through, that we're able to change what's happening?
So what we just going back for a second about the property taxes, they're only a few $1,000s, so it's not going to be like it's going to be any significant amount if it drags out, which we don't think is going to happen, because Kimmett is going to want to have his escrow money paid to him. The only thing that would hold it up would his inability to rehabilitate, which again he's not going to want to do, so we can get his money, or some of the ATR processes. But again, those are already actually underway with respect to surveying and things like that. But if we need to amend any part to the agreement, then there is a clause that allows for amendments, as long as it's done under the consent of the parties to the agreement. So that would be the federal and the MBQ side.
So there's I don't agree with Don about what he said about, well, the people here agreed to go with the Indian Act system. That's not true. We agreed to go with it, and then we wrote against it and said we don't want to do it, and we fought against it all the way. We've been in conflict ever since. So that's not entirely true, Don. So there's no one on there. There's no signatories or agreement people on this agreement outside of who was just said. That means that no one representative of the Simcoe deed or the Mohawks, in accordance to Kanenhariyo or our customs or tradition, are involved.
Seth, I didn't say that everybody agreed to go with the Indian Act. What I said was the people decided to elect their leaders before there was an Indian Act.
Yes, and then
the people decided to elect their leaders in 1870, and the Indian Act didn't come into existence until 1876, 6 years later.
And they said, then they wrote it and they said they didn't want to do that. They did it for 2 years.
So, but they did. But that was having elected leaders was never forced on our people. In the beginning, here at Kanenhariyo, they decided to do that before there ever was an Indian Act.
But it was forced after the fact. It was forced after.
Yeah,
they put
that's right.
Traditional Chiefs Council in the 1900s, and it's been forced, and it's been ignored ever since.
But I think we need to look at why did they want to elect their leaders? What was wrong? Why they felt the other system wasn't working?
They were complying because they were accessing the money, because they controlled the money and they ran it through the church, and they were wanting to have access to the resources and the leaseholds. So they said, okay, we'll go along, we'll play ball, just the same as you're saying now. Well, we have to do it this way because the government's only willing to do it this way. That was the same thing that happened then. This fantasy that it was because the traditional government doesn't work is a fantasy. It's farce. That's not the reason why, and it's the same situation we're in today. And so I'm concerned that this whole deal is all structured, but none of the people that are legitimately, like the clans and representatives of those, or the men's council or the women's council, are even being involved in this. And then it's being structured to set up in a trust that's being held by a bank and then being transferred to Canada, becoming Canadian land. It's never been Canadian land all this time.
Well, the band could have bought it, but the people didn't want the band to be buying back land they had never surrendered. That's the reason why we even have a trustee to begin with, because the people didn't want the band doing that.
Why do we got to pay for any of it? Just go take it back. So
when I met with Michael Witt, I said, we're not paying for all that. So that's why all these things were added on.
I get that. I understand they're trying to make it work. I get they're trying to finesse it. The issue is that about it becoming band land, becoming reserve. I heard Alan say it 1,000,000 times. The Simcoe deed's not a reserve. These lands aren't reserve lands in the same way. And it was pushed on us. So why would we want to make it reserve land? It's against our best interest when it's not Canada.
Well, the recognition of the Indian Act is what makes it tax exempt.
No, it doesn't.
When the Crown recognizes it is reserve land, it is in Section 16. The interest of an Indian or unreserved or with the band in the Indian Act is tax exempt.
That's not the reason, because it wasn't taxed before that. That church sitting on Church Lane is the reason. And our specific relationship to the Crown. I wonder if we shouldn't consider thinking about putting it in a trust outside of Canada, similar to the way the Jews did their land when they set up Israel. They set up the Jewish land trust, and they registered it in Geneva. I'm not trying to fight with you. I'm trying to protect us, because you're trying.
Well, Descahay went to Geneva too, and they didn't listen to him.
Well, that's right, because Canada pressured, didn't they? Because Canada didn't want the truth to come out. So, anyways, I'm just concerned about there being a situation where it goes into a trust, and then there's payment. This is ongoing payment thing goes on and on and on and on, and I'm worried about that. And I think that there's a hole in it, and that's all. I'm just saying it because And I put the idea of using a different kind of trust so that we don't put our land in Canada's hands.
Right, and that's why we have the contingency that if it does go on for too long, that Canada can be holding on to the land while the rehabilitation is being done. So we're not paying any more of those trustee fees, which are going to be nominal relative to the amount that's actually sitting inside the land acquisition trust account.
Because arguably
there are contingencies in place for that.
And we did want a clause. I did ask Alan and Jordan to put in a clause that time was of essence, so that it doesn't drag on and on without the money being paid over. So they have to pay the money over 45 days later. So then that money starts to earn interest instead of waiting to get paid.
Right.
And so that account is growing. It's sitting in our bank account instead of in the Crown's account. So that's going to grow a lot of interest. And so, but they wouldn't put in a clause, time was of essence. They refused to do that. And I guess, with the Turton Penn highway settlement, we still have not been paid for that yet.
I'm aware of that. And there's land that still hasn't been transferred or been dealt with.
And that they owe us over $1 million that they haven't paid us. So that's eroded away an awful lot of interest. And they're going to pay us. I've already sent a letter to the regional director that we want a discussion about how they're going to deal with that. Now, the Crown has the discretion to give an ex gratia payment to handle that, but they have to have the will and the money to do it.
Well, based on that $30 million, or it's approximately.
So to me, that deal wasn't. They gave us a few $1 million there.
Yeah, $542 per acre per year is approximately what it is. What's missing on the Simcoe D lands? They owe us $6.8 billion.
Yeah, and of course, when that other claim gets filed, then that will be in the billions of dollars.
Yeah, I know. I'm charged on it.
So again, but we don't want to see our people end up with criminal records and all the. I mean, you get media attention, but it still doesn't bring any land or any money back to the people. It's a newspaper story.
I don't know about that. The only reason that land's for sale by Kimmett is because people went down there and kicked them out and shut that gravel pit down. And look at all the money they got freed up in the water. You can't tell me that wasn't associated with that train. Well,
all the government did was turned. They wouldn't. The only thing all they did was toughened up their side. They just said the only thing they'd take from the ban, talk to us about, was surrendering the land. They weren't going to talk about returning any land.
Well, that didn't happen.
So that's why we had to go to court to say they're not negotiating in bad faith.
I know, and that didn't happen though, did it? They didn't get their way.
But it did happen, Seth. Alan had to go to the federal court, and there's Judge Rennie's decision.
But they're never going to do anything other than pay. They don't want to give the land back. So.
They're always going to give us a hard time, Seth. We don't make their rules, they do, and so we have to do what we can to make it work.
I get that.
I mean, I wish we were making all their rules and how it would work well for us, but that is not the reality here. They have their own system, and we have to try to work in that system to make it work for our people.
I don't agree. Otherwise, I don't agree with you on that principle, but that's okay.
Well,
we get to have what do they say? Agree to disagree, right? That's okay.
Yeah, we can disagree, but I talked to Gunnesadagi about the frustrations they have. They had the crisis there, and they still haven't got their land.
All those people live in those houses without title on them.
Yeah,
all kind of houses over there. They just moved into them. All right, well. Let's end our meeting here, guys. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you. So I was going to ask you if you would like to close with the traditional prayer.
No, that's okay. We didn't open it that way, so you guys are.
Well, I used our language though. I don't have the words for the traditional prayer.
Well, here's the thing. I don't agree with what we're doing here, guys, and I'm afraid to participate in the thing because I'm like, the people aren't being a part of it, and the land's going out, leaving our control, our power. I recognize that we haven't had access to it in a long time, so I'd like to see it go back to the people, and I'm concerned at the way this is, and I'm concerned even me participating in this thing and saying, okay, I'm going to do that I'm assisting in the process, and I just can't do it, Don. I ordinarily, I'm usually game, but I just can't.
Well, that's okay. I understand. Everybody's entitled, and the band members have to answer the question. It's not my decision to make.
Yeah, sure, for sure. All right, well, you guys have a wonderful evening or afternoon.
Okay, Onikiwa.
Thank you, Seth.
Onikiwa.
Thanks for your questions.
Hey guys, Kanenhariyo again. Hope you love that podcast episode. I did. It was a lot of fun. Don't forget to like, follow, share, all that good stuff. Helps with the algorithm, helps get the word out. And be sure to send it to your friends. All right, thanks. Have a good one.